We should just have like hanging microphones because
yeah,
wall attachments.
Oh, absolutely. If we were rich, I would just have a full podcast studio.
Where?
I don't know. We would just rent a space.
Oh, downtown on the water?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so nice.
Yeah, and it would be like super cozy. And we'd make it kind of like artist loft, bohemian vibe, I feel.
Yeah.
But spooky.
Yeah.
Dark academia.
Yeah.
Pinterest.com.
Our own pod lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. But, I mean, who knows? Anyway, hello
Hi.
and welcome.
To Ghoul Society. That's my big sister, Jamie.
And that's my little sister, Sara. We are grateful to be recording on the unceded, stolen territories of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations and the Lekwungen and Wasanich peoples whose historical relations with the land continue to this day. As uninvited guests, we are committed to disrupting racism and colonial violence within ourselves, our families, and our communities. By listening to this podcast, you've officially been inducted into the Ghoul Society. Sarah's on her phone and then she started laughing about something.
No, I'm not laughing. My face was oh my fucking god.
Oh.
Yeah, because someone I know has a connection to the story that I'm telling today, and I didn't know until, like, they didn't tell me until last night.
Wait, what?
And I was like, because they were like, oh, what's your episode on? And I told them, and they're like, oh, my family grew up near there. Or, like, I'll tell you about it.
Oh my god.
No, I'm going to tell you about it.
Also, so sorry. Is this a twofer?
I mean, yeah, it probably should be because it's 17 pages.
17 pages double space or 1.5 space?
17 pages is 1.5 space.
Okay, that's tough because it could be double, it could be single.
I know.
Let's just start.
I think it also depends on how much you interject and how much we talk.
Okay.
But no, it does.
Yes.
Because I could tell this whole story in like an hour.
20 minutes, yeah.
Or like 40 minutes.
Okay, let's just make this will be a long episode.
Yeah,
how about
probably.
Take your time listening. You know what? Turn it into your own 2-part episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
That's right. Listen to half, and then listen to half on the next weekend when we have our little break.
Yeah, because also there's a lot of trigger warnings for this episode, but do you have anything to share before I jump in?
Just that I'm really proud of you and excited for you to do your race tomorrow.
Thanks.
And I'm going camping, and I've been making sure not to watch any scary camping stories because 1, I hate them, but 2, then I really get in my head about it.
You get really affected by camping stories. Like, really bad. You always have.
Yeah.
You have since you were a kid.
I know. Like
more
Island.
so than... For those who know, you know.
Maybe we'll share that story one day, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready to re-traumatize myself. Our dad traumatized us. Hi, Dad. Thanks for traumatizing us. In the woods. No, that's okay.
I think it's a nice story now.
Yes, it is funny.
Yeah.
They're gonna eat me. Anyways, that's it.
Oh, great.
That's all I have to say. Let's do it. Let's just get into it.
Okay. So I'm gonna put in a really big trigger warning for murder, sexual assault, the murder of children. So sorry that I'm doing this case.
Are you doing a cult?
No.
Okay.
It's just a serial killer. Trigger for like, narcissism. Yeah.
Being an asshole.
Rape. Yeah, being an asshole. Being a fucking predator. So if your vibe isn't really, if you're not interested in hearing about serial murderers or serial killers, this might not be the episode for you.
Yeah.
So you'll have to tune in next time.
Yeah.
But we're going to start our story on November 17th, 1980 in Surrey, BC, when 12-year-old Christine Weller had met her friends at the Surrey Place Mall as a new section had just opened. Christine was a blue-eyed, happy-go-lucky tomboy who loved to be outside with her friends. And they were at the mall for a few hours. She left around 5 p.m. because she was late for supper. She lived at the Bonanza. Don't know why that's the name. She lived at the Bonanza Hotel with her parents, just a few blocks from the mall, but she never made it home. That evening, her parents assumed she was staying at a friend's house, and it took them a few days before they filed a missing persons report. And she was initially treated as a runaway until the police found her bike behind an animal hospital on King George Highway. And this was pretty common for the 80s, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't blame her parents at all either.
Yeah.
For not
For sure.
searching for her sooner, because, like, there's no...
The 80s.
Yeah, it's the 80s. Like, you're a tween or a teen, and you just kind of did whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And especially if you're the type of person who does that, like, you're often out, and then you end up staying at a friend's for a couple nights, and you don't tell your parents or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just however that person functions regularly, they're going to assume that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Over a month later, on Christmas Day, 1980, a man walking his dog along the Fraser River in Richmond found her remains. She was strangled and found with multiple stab wounds in her chest and abdomen. And in the eyes of the public, her murder was seen kind of as a random act of violence. They were like, who could do this to a child? She was 12 years old.
Yeah.
But the police, on the other hand, were already vaguely aware of a man named Clifford Olson, BC born and raised, who had a very lengthy criminal history.
What?
This is the case of the so-called Beast of BC, or rent-a-car killer, Clifford Olson.
Okay. First of all, I just got full body chills. Second of all, I vaguely have heard that name, but like...
Do you want to know why you've heard that name?
Yes.
He stayed in Kingston Pen in Ontario.
Oh, and you did that story. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know this story at all.
I don't think so. But it's like, it was all over the news in the early 80s, Vancouver, because he terrorized Vancouver and area.
Yeah, I bet.
For like over a year.
Yeah.
And it was all over the country.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's so wild though how many like American cases we hear, and we don't hear as many Canadian cases.
I know.
I think just because there's so many like people doing this kind of work in America, and our feeds are filled with American stuff and like blah blah blah, you know. But anyway. Yeah.
So I'll kind of get into who Clifford Olson was just a little bit. He was born in Vancouver, January of 1940, and he was actually born on New Year's Day. So he kind of came into the world famous because he was in the newspaper.
Oh,
because, well, because babies who are born on like special days used to be put in the newspaper, like New Year's Day babies, and then it'd have a list.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He grew up near the Peony grounds in Burnaby, Vancouver. And after World War II, his family moved to Richmond, which at the time was a very up-and-coming neighborhood. And one of my friends, I was out for drinks last night, and they asked me what my story was on today, and I said Clifford Olson, and she said, oh, my family grew up near him.
Wow.
And her grandpa grew up beside him.
What?
And they like played together as kids.
What?
Yeah. Apparently his family was first in their neighborhood to have a TV, so all the kids would go over and watch TV.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
And her dad dated one of Clifford Olson's victims.
What?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's so weird.
I know.
Okay. Wow.
Everything is intertwined.
Yep.
That's so crazy.
That is so crazy.
Yeah. So, I know. I was baffled. I was like, excuse you? You've never thought to tell me this? I've known you for like 5 years.
Oh, wow. Rude.
Anyway, so Olson's dad was a milkman, and he was actually one of the last people to use a horse-drawn wagon.
Love that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Last person to use a horse-drawn wagon, first person to get a TV in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Let me just get my TV. I'll carry it on my horse-drawn wagon.
No, actually. And his mom worked at a fish cannery, as one does when you live on the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Olson was reportedly always getting into fights and getting beaten up. And this is according to his father. It's
sad.
just like always getting into it with other kids.
Yeah.
At 10 years old, he began skipping school, and he actually quit school once he finished the 8th grade.
Oh, no.
But at that wasn't really uncommon.
No.
Like, some of our family didn't finish school either.
True. Yeah,
So,
that's true. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but now when we talk about that, like, we always talk about those are the kids that, like, slip through the cracks, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, what if?
Yes.
What if?
Yes, definitely.
Not saying that all kids that slip through the cracks become monsters at all.
Right.
At all.
No.
Very rarely do they.
Yeah.
But I think, like, what could have happened, you know,
Yes.
if they stayed in school. I don't know. If he stayed in school.
Or if he had the right help, because obviously he maybe was acting out a bit because he wasn't the best kid.
Yeah.
So obviously he needed some kind of extra support.
Yeah.
And in the, like, what would that have been? That would have been in the 50s? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
He was described as a smart aleck as a young child and would often go door to door selling out-of-date lotto tickets.
Oh my God. Okay.
And stealing money left out for milk. So essentially, he's taking his dad's money as the milkman.
Holy fuck.
I know.
Wow. Okay.
At the age of 17, Olson would be arrested and jailed for the first time for a B&E, breaking and entering, burglary. Throughout his early adulthood, he spent 21 years total in jail.
Wow.
Yeah, with over 90 convictions, such as obstructing justice, possession of stolen property or firearms, fraud, parole violation, impaired driving, armed robbery, kind of all over the place.
Holy moly. Okay.
He even escaped jail and got recaptured 7 times.
He escaped
Seven
times
times.
and got recaptured 7 times.
Yeah, so for one of these instances in 1956, he was on the run after fleeing 3 guards who escorted him to a hospital after he faked being ill. And so he's like, bye, fuck you guys. Got away from these 3 guards, apparently. Mm-hmm. The hunt for him this time involved like dozens of RCMP officers. After about a week on the run, he was sniffed out by a police dog in Blaine, Washington, just south of the border.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. In 1974, he was accused of repeated sexual attacks on a 17-year-old inmate.
Oh, God.
And in 1978 was identified as the man who sexually assaulted a 7-year-old girl in Sydney, Nova Scotia.
Ew. Mm-hmm. Fuck off.
So by the 1980s, Olson was known as a sexual predator and criminal in BC, and was also apparently known to randomly, like, shoot at people if they pissed him off.
Okay.
According to past inmates from his younger years, he was known as a snitch and a prison sexual predator as well.
Wow.
Throughout this time in and out of jail, Olson worked for himself doing construction, and this is what he actually would use as a ruse later on to get his victims in his car.
Wow. Okay.
He was finally released from prison in January of 1980, and after a few months he fell in love with a woman named Joan Hale. They had 1 child together in April of 1981 in the middle of Olson's killing spree.
Wow. Can I say something first before you go on? Is like, I'm just thinking about how hard it is once you have been incarcerated to stay out of the prison system.
Definitely.
Like, it's so challenging from what I understand and what I know.
Some of these, like, obstruction of justice could be anything.
Yeah.
Like, or like resisting arrest.
Yeah, exactly.
It can be a literal being like, no, don't touch me. That you could be, you know, it's like stupid shit.
And also 16-year-olds should not be sent to prison. That's my take. Like, they need to be rehabilitated.
Yes.
In a space that is safe. And I don't even think that spaces like that exist in Canada, especially not in the States. Places like Finland and Sweden, they do.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah.
teens should not be in prison. I don't really care what they do. Like, that is how you continue to make someone who is going to be a shitty person, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, you're not giving them a chance.
Yeah,
so.
like, our prison system isn't a rehabilitative center.
No.
That's what we need.
Yes, exactly. And, like, when you're 16, you're, like, supposed to be in, like, grade 10.
Yeah.
You're a literal...
child.
Yeah. You're a child. You're actually a child.
Yeah.
Like, grade 10, 11 sometimes, maybe. Like...
you think you know things, but you don't know shit.
No,
so,
exactly.
Like... and your brain is developing very hardcore during that time as well.
Yep, your prefrontal cortex is not developed.
Not even close.
At all.
No, you're still like 10 years out.
Yep.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was just my little aside.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It's very difficult. And especially because once someone's been in and out of jail a couple times, they're already on police's radar as well. So then if you do something like little, then they're like, oh, well, now you're going to jail for a very long time because of your past. Exactly. And now you just did this little thing.
Yep. You can never escape it.
No. So now we're back to the horrific death of Christine Weller in the winter months of 1980.
So he's married and he has a child?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Wait, I thought you said he got married and had a kid.
Well, so he fell in love with Joan. And they had a son together in April of 1981. But I'm kind of going to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
Just because I don't know. I didn't really want to do a lot of research on Joan and their son.
Yeah.
I was just like, Joan comes up a little bit later. And I'm like, very distasteful things that transpire. Okay. But she, like, it's not her fault that he killed all these kids.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So actually, a few months passed. So Christine is found Christmas Day 1980, and now we're in April 16th 1981, and I think this is really around the time that Olson's son was born.
Okay,
so that's where we are.
Okay.
When 13-year-old Colleen Daignault went missing. She was a shy 13-year-old with long brown hair and a sweet smile. And on the 16th, she told her granny she would be home around 4 p.m. after spending the night at a friend's house in Delta. And I think her granny lived, like, Burnaby. Like, she had to go, like, pretty far. She had to bus pretty far to get back home from Delta. Yeah. And she was last seen wearing a red and white jacket, blue jeans, white runners, perfect for the spring weather. She's 13, She's like, I just had a sleepover, gonna take the bus home.
Yeah. Living her life.
Yeah. She would have had to take 2 buses. Oh, she lived in Surrey to get home.
Okay.
But
Surrey and Delta do bump into each other. Like, the highway is what separates them. The King George Highway, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. But it depends where you are. Obviously, those are really big spaces. Yeah. So, yeah. I
think it was, like, 2 buses. Quite a big distance for her to travel.
Yeah.
So she was waiting at the bus stop. It's around 1 o'clock, and it's thought that she got into Clifford Olson's car. So
1 p.m.? 1 a.m. Okay.
1 p.m. So she's just waiting at the bus stop. He probably pulled up and was like, hey, where are you going?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to Surrey. Oh, I'm headed that way. Climb in, I'll give you a ride, kind of thing. Yeah. Which happened all the time, too, in the 80s. Like, that was a very common thing to do.
Absolutely.
So it's not like she probably would have been like, oh, I don't know, but we don't know.
May as well.
Yeah, might as well. Sure, I don't want to wait for the bus.
Or
exactly.
I missed it, or
Mm-hmm. Colleen was reported missing 3 days later, and she was also treated as a runaway. Not surprising.
So sad.
5 months after she went missing, her skeletal remains were found in a forested area in Surrey near the American border. Mm-hmm. So my thought is that they, like, got to Surrey and then he attacked her somehow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ugh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Also, like, at this point, there's, like, two
Yeah.
girls in the same area who, like, pretty close together, who the cops were like, oh, they're runaways, and then their remains are found. At that point, I hope that there's a fucking police officer that's being like, maybe we should actually take the next one seriously.
Well, so Colleen was missing for 5 months.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more victims that occur in that time span.
Oh.
Like a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's like bam bam, like back to back.
Wow.
Essentially.
Okay.
But she was presumed missing for 5 months.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's like there were still more, quote, runaways, end quote, in the police's eyes before the remains are even found. Okay.
Yeah. Because by the time she was found in September, and she went missing in April.
Yeah.
And her remains were skeletal by the time she was found, unfortunately.
So sad.
Colleen's sister, Corrine, was called to identify her clothes just before Colleen's birthday, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the red and white Adidas t-shirt that Corrine recognized as the shirt her sister had borrowed from her.
Oh. So terrible.
And later on, during Olson's trial, Colleen's uncle, Bert Gobin, told the press, quote, "We never forget Colleen and what happened to her. We try not to think about it too much because it hurts. We've tried to live with it, but we'll never forget," end quote.
Yeah.
So back to April 1981, just 6 days after Colleen went missing, on April 22nd, Darren Johnsrud, 16, was abducted. He was from Saskatoon and was actually visiting his mom and siblings who lived in Vancouver. And he lived with his dad in Saskatchewan. Darren was last seen in a Coquitlam shopping center, and he was actually planning to move to Vancouver in the fall of 1981 to live with his mom and find work, but he sadly didn't get the chance. He was bludgeoned to death by Olson and was found on May 2nd, like a few weeks later.
Yeah.
Near Mission, at the bottom of a rocky embankment. Yeah. In 2021, Darren's mom, Sharon, shared, quote, "This will never end for me, but it's a page I can turn once I do know that Olson has passed away and can't harm us or anybody else ever again," end quote.
Yeah.
She shared that the death of Darren was particularly hard on her husband, Gary, who passed away from brain cancer. And at the end of his life, he could barely recognize his own family, but he repeatedly brought up Olson.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So he kind of was forgetting his family, but he never forgot the man who murdered his son.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Sharon said, quote, "I guess my other son summed it up. He said, 'You know, Mama, Olson may be dying and he will be dead, but it won't bring Darren back. We haven't got Darren, but the biggest thing is he won't be able to hurt us again. After 30 years, he won't be able to hurt us.'"
Yeah.
And that was in...
That's so sad.
Yeah. I know, don't cry. I know. No. I know. But I think it is really sad. And the way that Darren was found was awful. Like, essentially what happened is that Olson somehow got Darren into his car, probably on the ruse of offering him work, which he did. And he would offer these kids work for like $10 an hour.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, for his construction company.
Yeah.
And at the time, minimum wage was $3.50.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too good to be true.
And then he bludgeoned Darren and essentially threw him off of an embankment. Yeah. And so there's really no rhyme or reason for Olson's murder spree because he just stopped killing for a few weeks.
Okay. In
the spring of 1981.
Could it be perhaps that he had a partner and a son to deal with and take care of? Take care of, quote, end quote.
I mean, maybe. But it doesn't really seem like he gave a shit.
Yeah, true.
Like,
that's a good
he
point.
Just would drive around all the time.
Yeah.
Because I think he owned a construction company.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
Right. He's like, I'm just checking on whatever.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really care.
Yeah. I don't care either.
He fucking sucks.
Yeah.
On May 19th, 1981, it's 4 days after his wedding to his wife, Joan. 16-year-old Sandra Wolfsteiner goes missing. On her last day alive, Sandra went to visit her boyfriend to take him for lunch in Surrey, just any other day. Around 11:30 a.m., she apparently had been visiting with her boyfriend's mom, who watched Sandra get picked up by a man in a gray two-door car on the Fraser Highway.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, she was watching her?
Yeah, so she was like visiting with her boyfriend's mom and then was like, hey, I'm gonna go see him. I'm taking him for lunch or something.
Okay.
And then she's like, okay, have fun. And then she's just like watching out the window, I presume, because Sandra's walking away. And then she got into a car, was like hitchhiking.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like really no red flag.
Yeah.
You know?
Was hitchhiking.
Yeah. It's possible that Olson offered her a job as well, because she was then seen at the Royal Bank in Langley, where she was closing her account, claiming she had gotten a job cleaning windows.
Why would she close her bank account?
I don't know. That's
to
just
clean windows. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know, Cash. I don't know.
What? Brain broken. Okay.
I don't know. That's just what the article said that happened.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just weird.
I think it's weird too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Olson then somehow forced or persuaded Sandra to go to his cabin up the Fraser Valley. Don't know how that transpired. I don't really know a lot of what happened because...
It happened just he knows and the victims know.
Yeah.
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 It happened in like private, intimate settings.
Yeah, and he told some things.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Most of what I've found is from newspaper articles.
Right.
So it's like just pieced together from investigators.
Yeah.
And because just of how the trial went, like it didn't go on for as long as people thought, so no one really heard. Because I assume because he's a narcissist, he wanted to keep it to himself.
Yeah.
Of what he did.
Right.
So they go up the valley. I don't know where they're going. And then they turn off just off of Chilliwack Lake Road, and they get out of the car. I don't know what they're doing. So they get out of the car, and Olson hit Sandra over the back of the head with a hammer. Like so many before her in this case and others, the police originally noted her as a runaway, and her remains weren't found until September either.
Right.
So he's either burying them in very shallow graves, or he's just putting them in the woods under shrubs.
Yeah, kind of sounds like it.
Yeah, and then unfortunately letting the animals and wildlife take care of that for him, I guess. So at the point she was found in September, there was barely enough physical evidence or tissue for forensic scientists and coroners to determine definitively that it was her remains.
Whoa.
Although they had little to go on, coroner Tony Beercroft was 80% sure that they were Sandra's.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's also 1980s science, I guess.
Yes. No DNA stuff yet.
Not really, no. A month later, on June 21st in Burnaby, Ada Anita Court was babysitting her niece or nephew in Coquitlam in the same complex that the Olsons lived in.
Wow.
So this one was super close to home for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Risky.
Yeah. She was meant to catch a bus from there to see her boyfriend when she vanished. So Olson got his ruse in again. A man named Jim Peranto believed he saw Olson disposing of Ada's body.
What the fuck?
On the evening of June 21st, 1981, on a logging road.
He didn't call anyone? He didn't say, hey,
yeah,
I guess
so
this is also a time of, like, mind your business.
Yeah, so what happened was he saw Olson bending over Ada's body and thought they were in trouble. So Jim got out of his car and was like, hey, are you guys okay? And then Olson just kind of, like, stared at him and didn't say anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And then at some point, I don't really know what happened, but Olson began chasing Jim.
Yeah.
And then so Jim gets in his car, Olson gets in his car.
Oh God, oh God, oh God.
And then
oh God,
Jim's
oh God,
like
oh God, oh God.
going up the fucking logging roads.
Oh no.
Because he worked at a forestry camp up there.
Yeah.
So that's why Jim was up there.
Oh, okay.
So he turns onto the road leading to the forestry camp and he lost Olson.
Wow.
So
that's so scary.
Yeah, so then I assume Olson just went back to Ada's body and disposed of it.
So he legit... Yeah, that's pretty fucking obvious that he was doing something fucked.
Yeah. A month or two later, Jim reported what he saw to White Rock RCMP.
Very good.
Ada's remains were found on August 27th.
Wait, why did it take him 1 to 2 months to report?
I don't know.
This shit.
I don't know.
Maybe he was scared.
Probably.
I get that. And he's probably like, was that real?
Yeah.
What was it? Should I get involved? Shouldn't I get involved?
Is it something bad that happened?
That's a bit long.
I know.
See something, say something. Unlike that time.
Unlike that time you didn't say something when you saw something.
Yeah. But last time I saw something in the middle of... last time when I said something in the middle of seeing something, it was kind of scary, so...
Right.
I don't know. You gotta choose what... You gotta choose your safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways.
No, I agree.
But yeah, weird. But okay, so he called. That's good. They
so
found her
he
body.
reported it, and then her body was found on August 27th near Weaver Lake, so that's where they were in that area.
Right.
And she was identified through dental records as well.
I also wonder then, was he able to be like, this is what the guy looks like, this is the car?
So you would think so. But Olson rented cars all the time.
Oh. That's why rent-a-car killer.
Yeah, he would just go rent a car for a few days, bring it back with like hundreds of kilometers on it. He's driving all over the fucking place.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
okay.
he'll drive from like Delta to Hope and back.
So weird.
Yeah. Like he's just driving around.
Oh God.
And like drinking.
Lazy.
And like
okay.
Yeah. And at this point I think Olson began to care less and less of being caught. I think his narcissism was really peaking. Mm-hmm. Or he was just narcissistic enough to think he'd never get caught.
Yep.
Because his next few victims were abducted and murdered within the same month.
Wow.
The first one was 9-year-old Simon Partington. He was abducted on July 2nd, 1981. After breakfast, he rode his bike to his friend's house, but he never arrived. He disappeared only a few blocks from where Christine Weller was last seen alive as well.
Wow.
And he was found on August 27th, only 2.5 kilometers from where Christine was found.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. At 9 years old, he is the youngest known victim of Olson's. Mm-hmm. And the disappearance of Simon was actually a turning point in the case, mainly due to his age, because the police didn't believe him to be a runaway.
Right.
Because he's 9 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hello.
Still crazy, though, that they believed a 13-year-old would.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Like, I kind of get it, but I'm also like, okay.
Yeah. So...
It's very 80s.
So at this point, these disappearances are in the newspaper because many of the victims' bodies haven't been found yet. It's only July. A lot of them were found in August and September.
Yeah.
So they're all presumed missing. And so the public outcry about Simon's disappearance had the RCMP launching one of the biggest manhunts in the country's history, including over 200 officers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, crazy.
But the media attention did nothing to slow Olson down.
Oh.
5 days after killing Simon, he picked up 2 teenage girls and used his window washing ruse to get one of them alone. He's like, hey, I have a job. Do you want it? And she's like, yeah. And that's how he got all of them, unfortunately. What happened is he gave her alcohol, which he also did. He'd be like, oh, do you want a beer? Like, grab one out of the back seat kind of thing.
Right.
And he sexually assaulted her. And she resisted, and he actually stopped, surprisingly.
Interesting.
And he was even later charged with indecent assault on her.
Wait, he didn't kill her?
No. I don't know who this woman is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably good that...
Yes.
Because she's still alive and living a life.
But the police didn't connect this to Simon or the other murders at the time.
Right.
Because they were presumed missing. and run away.
And I guess that kind of makes sense too, because like, well, I mean, the ruse and the pickup is the same, so you would think that they would be like, let's at least talk to this guy.
Yeah, but they don't know the ruse and the pickup because they're dead.
Oh, right. So so it kind of makes sense that they didn't connect it.
And also because
sad.
This girl that he sexually assaulted was a teenage girl, and Simon was a 9-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And back then, the police were like, okay, well, a sexual predator either likes boys or girls certain ages. Right. Yeah. Not boys and girls across
all the ages.
Like decades.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So they were like, this is all separate.
Right. So how did she get away, or do you know more of her story, or not really?
No, okay. That's it.
Yeah.
I think it's just private, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
So just 7 days after Simon went missing, on July 9th, 1981, 14-year-old Judy Cosma was never seen by her family again. This girl, Judy, was my friend's dad's ex-girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She was 14. Yeah.
Poor sweet baby angel.
I know. On that day, there was actually a witness who was with Judy and Olson during the last few hours of her life.
Wow.
18-year-old Randy Ludlow was with Olson that day, not knowing that Olson had committed, by this point, 6 murders of children around Vancouver. They were driving towards downtown New Westminster when Olson saw Judy leaving a phone booth on Columbia Street. It was clear to Randy that Olson knew this girl because they waved at each other.
Oh, interesting.
And Olson offered her a ride to Richmond as she was on her way to see a friend and go to a job interview. And it was later found out that Olson knew Judy from her job at McDonald's. Yeah.
I see.
Olson offered the 2 youths beer that he always had in his car as they drove to Richmond.
Wait, Randy is a youth?
Well, he's 18.
Okay. Wait, why is Randy hanging out with him?
He's just hanging out with him.
How old is Olson?
So it's 1981.
He's like in his 30s?
So he's 41.
Ew, why is I thought it was another adult. Is a teen? A teen is hanging out with him? That's
he's
fucked
18,
up.
so he's technically an adult.
Okay, but no.
They're all teens.
I know,
almost
but
all teens.
What I'm trying to say is, like, I thought when you said Randy, I thought you meant like another actual adult who is the same age as Olson.
No.
Like, listen, if you are 20, you don't hang out with 40-year-olds. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
not like that.
Yeah.
Unless they're like a family friend.
I think it's different. Yeah. It seems to me like a little sus.
I don't really know Randy's connection to Olson, but they knew each other.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess. And there are people like that have... Maybe I just feel weird about it because I know that Olson is a fucked up person.
Yeah, and he didn't kill Randy.
Yeah. And, like, I also have friends that are much older, so...
Yeah.
But I'm also not 18.
Yeah. But it's like, why didn't he kill Randy?
Yeah. So weird. So weird.
Yeah.
Okay, I redact my statement, but I still think it's weird.
Yes. No, it definitely is.
Yeah.
So Olson offered them beer that he always had in his car as they drove to Richmond. And they arrived way before Judy was meant to meet her friend and go to her job interview. Apparently at one point they stopped to get more beer, and Olson handed Randy a stack of cash to, quote, impress, unquote, Judy.
Okay.
And quickly took it back to get more alcohol. And when he returned, Judy was sitting in the front passenger seat and Randy was in the back seat. And then he offered Judy a job to clean windows. I guess because Judy was so early to where she wanted to go, they drove back to New Westminster, where Olson bought a bottle of rum and some Coke. And then when he returned to the car, he told Randy to make them all a drink. So they're just driving around drinking.
Okay.
Yeah, this account is from Randy.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm not saying this against Judy at all, but interesting choice to... Maybe she wasn't drinking with them, but interesting choice to drink before your job interview.
I know. It's the 80s.
Okay, girl. It is the 80s.
After the first mixed drink, he encouraged Judy to have another, but she didn't want one.
Yeah.
And he
Makes sense. She has a fucking job interview.
Yeah. And he
Dumbass.
persisted, telling Randy to pour her another drink. And so Randy ended up giving Judy a cup of Coke without rum. Because, and I was like, hell yeah, Randy.
Good job, Randy.
Yeah. Though she played into it,
Yeah.
noting how strong it was. She was like, oh, that's a strong one.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
According to Randy, Olson then gave Judy some little green pills, saying, quote, they'll straighten you out. They keep you from getting drunk, end quote. And she took them.
No.
Because I guess that's for some part of her kind of trusted him.
Yeah.
Because he obviously was a regular at McDonald's. And to everybody, he seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah. As they often do.
Yeah.
Narcissists are usually like that as well.
Yeah.
So. And also there's another person in the car with them.
Yeah, that too.
Another teen.
Yeah, exactly. Olson then drove them to his apartment complex. And while in the underground parking, he got out of his car. He's like, oh, I have to go grab something from my apartment or some stupid shit. So Judy and Randy are hanging out in the car. And then Randy noticed that Judy appeared really anxious and nervous and upset. And she was actually crying.
Oh.
And he thought it was due to her being 15 and having some alcohol. And she was going to miss her job interview.
Yeah. She's 15. Oh.
Yeah. And so she was crying. And he even, kind of wiped her tears from her face.
Oh. So sad.
And so shortly, Olson returned to the car. Then he dropped Randy off at the Lougheed Mall. And he claimed Randy, while giving his statement to police at a later time, that the next time he saw Olson claimed to have dropped Judy off at Richmond, although Randy later found out that Olson had killed her and actually went on vacation the next day.
Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Judy was found a couple weeks later on July 25th near Weaver Lake. So that was really Olson's preferred spot.
Dump spot, yeah.
Yeah. And she was found with 19 stab wounds.
Oh, God.
When Judy's remains were found, the police had actually taken someone else into custody, and they held this guy on reasonable and probable grounds, but I don't know what those were.
Okay.
And during this time, the police believed that one or more people were responsible for the missing children. Because they were like, oh, okay, there's another one. Maybe there's a couple people taking these kids. Maybe they didn't run away.
Yeah. Whoa. That's crazy.
I know.
What?
Well, because now there's 200 police officers. There's multiple jurisdictions involved. Because we have the federal RCMP. We have Vancouver Police. We have Surrey Police. You know?
Just crazy that they actually didn't run away. That's so crazy.
Isn't that so crazy?
That's so crazy.
These 12-year-olds
babies
run away.
That they didn't run away? Whoa.
And they didn't leave a note or anything.
Wow.
And they just ran away.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Get it together, RCMP. Fuck.
Yeah, actually. Obviously, the police are starting to sweat a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There have been 7 children murdered in and around the Vancouver area from November 1980 to mid-July 1981. Not all of their bodies have been found, but a few of them have been. So at this point, the Serious Crimes Unit asked any detachment with a missing child report to contact them, and they wanted to look over every single one.
Nice.
Which I was like,
good.
Yes, they're doing it.
Good.
Sergeant Arnie Nyland noted in a press conference, quote, "We are looking to see if there's a connection, but so far we haven't seen one. Maybe one person is responsible for one, maybe another for 2. We want parents to be concerned and be wary for their kids. If someone did attempt to pick them up and didn't succeed, we'd like to hear from them. There must be some that don't get in the car," end quote.
Right.
Which is true.
Yeah.
This media attention didn't scare Olson because he doesn't give a shit about anything.
Right.
And he is the fucking worst.
Yep.
So on July 23rd, 1981, Olson met a teenager named Raymond King Jr. at the Canada Manpower Youth Employment Center. Raymond rode there on his bike, as he often did during his summer holiday. And as soon as he met Olson, Raymond was promised work. What a ruse for a predator to use.
Yeah.
At the Youth Employment Center?
Yeah, that's fucked up.
I know.
That's fucked.
He's the worst.
Yeah.
Raymond, bless him, he was very excited for the opportunity to find some work, so he got into Olson's car.
Yeah.
He's like, hell yeah, I want $10 an hour.
Yeah.
Anyone would.
Yeah.
Olson drove them along Highway 7, but ended up turning off towards a popular camping area beside the Alpine Lake, where Olson sadly bludgeoned Raymond to death and hid him in the brush.
Oh.
On the night that Olson murdered Raymond, he logged 403 kilometers in his rental car from the company Metro in Port Coquitlam.
Wow.
The rental clerk later claimed, quote, he offered me a job shampooing carpets in his apartment complex he said he owned at Lougheed Mall.
Oh, God.
He only came in to get a car on days he knew I worked.
Oh,
The
don't like that. I
job
don't like
he offered was $16 an hour. So it was different depending on who he was talking to sometimes.
Of course.
More than I get here, and I was supposed to let him know. Thank God I never did, end quote.
That is so terrifying.
Yeah, he came forward after, I think, Olson had been arrested.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah. Raymond's family and police were convinced he didn't run away.
Good.
Because his bike was left chained at the Youth Employment Center.
Yeah.
And his family was like, he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. And the police actually believed them.
Good.
Sadly, Raymond was found on August 5th by some campers at Alpine Lake.
That's really scary.
I know.
That's really scary.
Oh, sorry, you're going camping.
It's okay.
Oops.
It's okay.
Okay.
Everything will be fine.
It will be. 2 days later, on July 25th, because Olson, his dopamine must be going crazy in his brain right now.
Yeah.
Because he just needs to kill these kids. Visiting student Sergren Arndt from Germany was spotted with him in a Coquitlam pub. And again with him by passengers on a train. Her body was found in Richmond in a trench, only 400 yards from where Simon Partington had been found the day prior.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if maybe Olson was like, well, they found Simon here, so I'm just going to put her here now too.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, maybe he didn't. Well, I guess it would have been in the news.
Yeah, like...
finding Simon's body.
Yeah, like a fuck you.
Yeah.
I killed another one.
That's so fucked.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she was 16 as well. Sigrid's parents were notified a month later on August 28th over the phone because they lived in Germany.
So sad.
Mrs. Arndt's sister, who lived in Vernon at the time, was the one who phoned them. And she was like, there's police here. And then they delivered the news of Sigrid.
Wow.
Being found in Richmond.
Oh.
Yeah. Mrs. Arndt recalled to the Vancouver Sun, quote, she was an intelligent, suspicious girl. We discussed frequently how she would never get into a stranger's car, not to mention that she would never hitchhike. But obviously in Canada she did. Oh. She raved about the trips by boat and horseback, but most of all, she fell for the friendliness, open-heartedness, and eagerness to help the local people. I'm sure it was because of this that she lost all of her natural caution and timidness, end quote.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a really lovely little, elegy.
Yeah, I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
Sigrid was identified, I guess, in general, on September 2nd, 1981. Mm-hmm. And they used dental charts received by a dentist from Germany.
Yeah. Because
she was unidentified for
a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. 2 days after Sigrid went missing on July 25th, 15-year-old Terry Lynn Carson was abducted by Olson. She left her home Monday morning around 8 a.m. and was approached by Olson in his car, who offered her a ride and something to drink, like beer. I mean, like alcohol.
Yeah.
As with his other victims, it said that Olson offered her work and was like, hey, here's a beer to celebrate. In an interview with journalist Peter Worthington from the early 1990s, Olson described his encounter with Terry Lynn because they were in contact a lot.
Right.
And this is really like the most detailed account for one of the victims. I couldn't really find such a detailed account for all of them, but Olson really liked to talk about Terry Lynn.
Right.
With
weird.
Yeah.
Creepy.
It is creepy. So while waiting at a bus stop, Olson offered Terry Lynn a ride. And at first she was weary, but he kept offering, saying he was going towards Guilford, which is where she was going, and would drop her off at a job interview at a pet store.
Ugh.
She decided to hitch a ride with him after he was like, come on, I'm going that way anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I'll drive you there. And apparently he kept a brochure in the front of his car that was literally about warning kids about being picked up from strangers.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Like, it was just...
Ew.
Yeah, I know.
Ew.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I
That's
know.
fucked up.
So it was a ploy for his
is
victims
so twisted.
to feel comfortable.
Oh my god.
I know.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
Hate that. Okay.
Olson said that initially they spoke about Terry Lynn's prospective job at the pet store, and as they're driving, he was like, grab us a beer out of the back. And so she did. And she's asking him questions about his work, and he was like, oh, I own 2 construction companies. And he offered her a job washing windows and shampooing carpets for $10 an hour. And Terry Lynn seemed really impressed and accepted the job offer because she would be making $80 a day.
Yeah.
Which in the 80s was so much money.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
she was like, that would be amazing. Like, yeah, I'm so excited. I can't wait to tell my parents. Yeah. And he was like, I'll take you for dinner, and like, we'll meet up with your parents and we'll go for dinner to celebrate.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Fuck
like
him.
the literal
So bad.
fucking worst.
Yeah.
So then Olson began driving them to Hope.
Oh.
So far away.
So far.
Where...
Yeah, for people don't know, sorry, they're starting in like Delta. Essentially.
It doesn't really say.
Well, let's say they're in the lower mainland.
Yeah.
And on the coast. Driving to Hope from there is like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like 3 hours, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, 2.5 to 3 hours. 2 to 4 hours. Anyways, it's
with
not
traffic.
that close. With traffic, it's like 12 hours. No, but it's not close.
No.
So like if you're just getting in a car and they're like, yeah, I'll take you to just down the road a little bit. And then all of a sudden you're driving to another city in the province. Like think about it that way.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Okay, so they're driving to Hope for some fucking reason. He was like, I need to go pick up some legal documents. Okay.
Legal documents saying you're a fucking pedophile asshole?
Yeah. And so this is when he offered to take Terry Lynn and her family out to dinner to celebrate her starting a new job with him. And he was like, oh, I have some business cards in my briefcase in the back. So she took them. Then the conversation turned more inappropriate. It's already inappropriate that she's he
picked her up. She's 15 years old and offered her a job. Yes.
So Olson started asking if she had a boyfriend, and she's like,
classic.
And she's like, or I just can't. I'm so frustrated because I'm so mad. He was essentially like, oh, you're way too pretty not to have a boyfriend. Like that kind of shit.
Yeah. Gross.
Like grooming.
Yes.
Behavior.
Yeah. So
then he was like, oh, what kind of alcohol do you like? And apparently she was like, oh, I like vodka. And he was like, yeah, Smirnoff's the best. Or So then they stopped in Mission to get some. And at some point, they're back on the road to Hope. And Terry Lynn was like, I'm drunk. Because apparently she was drinking vodka and orange juice.
Oh, God.
And she's like, I'm drunk. And then Olson was like, oh, there's some pills in the glove box that counter the alcohol.
Did he ever discuss what the pills are? What they actually are? Are they just
I don't know.
So weird. Like
I think they're some kind of sleeping pills.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So Terry Lynn took a couple because she believed him. Also, you have to understand that when you're a child, you just inherently believe adults.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my God. Oh,
like you're just like, oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I even do that still now.
No, a 15-year-old will believe
you
as an adult. And this is why, like, you have to be so careful as an adult.
Yeah.
Because you have so much power.
Yes.
You know? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So Terry Lynn took a couple of these pills and she was like, after a while, she's like, they're not working. I still feel super drunk. She was like feeling woozy.
Yeah.
You know, obviously she's fucking 15.
Yeah.
So Olsen was like, oh, take 3 more and give me some. And so he popped them in his mouth and then took them out when she wasn't looking.
It's fucked up.
She was then like, I'm super drunk and super tired. So she was like, okay, wake me up when we get to Hope. And she fell asleep.
Yeah.
Not fell asleep. She's unconscious.
Yes.
Like full on.
Yeah.
Once in Hope, this is really disturbing. And this is all Olsen's account. You have to remember that.
Yes.
He pulled over some rest stop area. I don't know. It must have been kind of secluded, but it was a parking lot. And he kind of like shakes her and was like, hey, are you awake? Or like, Terry. And she didn't wake up, obviously. And so he raped her in the back of his car.
Okay. Fuck him.
Afterwards, he drove to a bank to cash some traveler's checks, and she's in the car, unconscious in the back seat.
Okay.
He gets back in the car. She's still unconscious.
Yeah,
Then-
because she took 5 fucking sleeping pills with alcohol.
Yeah.
Is she even actually
She was breathing.
Okay.
He then drove to the North Shore, the Fraser Villa, where he raped her again, and then he killed her by putting a screwdriver through her skull and then hit her with a hammer.
The fuck?
And he said that when he put the screwdriver in her skull and he raped her again.
What?
And she moved her arms to push him off. And he put a screwdriver in her skull and she was still alive.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
That's so fucking dark, dude.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
And then apparently he brought her over to a creek and drowned her.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Poor girl.
Yeah. It's so,
That's
like, awful.
So tragic.
He then took off all her clothes and burned them, cut up her purse and shoes, and threw them into the river. And he had a change of clothes for himself in the car. So he cut up his clothes and threw them in the river.
Wow. Wow. So
And
obviously premeditated.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
And he wiped down the inside of the car.
Yeah.
For fingerprints.
Right.
Because he knew fingerprints were a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of why I'm glad that there is not a full account of every single victim. Because,
it's fucked up and
Yeah.
intense. And we can assume that the other ones are
Oh, yeah.
equally as intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, according to Peter Worthington, who Olsen was in contact with all the time, because Peter's was a journalist with the Huffington Post.
Okay.
And Peter Worthington said that Olsen felt that he had a secret power over life and death and enjoyed knowing that he was the last person these kids saw alive.
Ew.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I know.
I fucking hate that guy.
I know.
That's so fucked.
I know.
Also to be like, yeah, I'm gonna tell a journalist all of this shit.
Oh, he loved talking to the media. He was banned from
so
talking to the
insane.
media. He loved talking to the media.
I'm so glad he was banned. Good.
Yeah, but it
Good.
didn't work, obviously.
Because there's twisted journalists out there.
Terry Lynn was initially considered a runaway.
Oh
And
my God.
her remains were found on August 27th, so a whole month later. Terry's mom later claimed in an interview, quote, I had a dream of Terry Lynn being nude in the bush.
Whoa.
I dreamt her left arm was up and her right leg was down. When the police found her, her right leg was up and her left arm was down. The exact opposite.
I just got literal full chills.
So actually, my dream was telling me she died, but I didn't want to believe it, end quote. During the time that Terry Lynn was missing, Olsen was considered a prime suspect and was being watched by the police.
Good.
But surveillance was actually stopped until August 6th.
Why?
Because he knew that they were watching him.
So how's it stopped?
Because he was behaving like a normal citizen.
Okay.
He was like, oh, they're watching me. I'm just going to be a law-abiding person, essentially.
Okay. That doesn't mean you didn't do it.
No, exactly.
Like,
I know.
keep watching him.
Yeah.
God.
Later,
Holy shit.
like a few years later, after Olson's sentencing, Mrs. Carson would say, quote, I'm glad that I can put a lot of this behind me now, but I can never put behind me what was done to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish that there was capital punishment, end quote.
Whoa. Yeah.
And for those
Fair.
who aren't aware, Canada abolished capital punishment in 1976, and it was removed from the National Defense Act in 1998.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so hard. Like, I feel like if I was a mom
and you hear that's what happened to your child.
Yeah. Then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go fucking kill that guy.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Or like, yes, I want that guy to be killed.
Yeah.
But I also disagree with the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
very
really
hard.
complicated.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. 3 days later, on July 30th, 1901, Olson met his last victim, Louise Chartrand. She was the youngest of 7 kids, 3 of which, along with Louise, moved from Quebec to Maple Ridge. On this day, Olson had actually met with police earlier, who were in the process of surveilling him again.
Holy fuck.
And he met with the police while he was on the way to see his lawyer. So the police are cracking down on him. They know him. They know he's probably responsible for at least the murder of Terry Lynn and Judy. So Olson met with Detective Tarr at a white spot where they had hidden microphones that transmitted to an officer in the parking lot. This is the conversation that followed.
Wait, what? Is this what they do?
Yes.
They're like, okay, you're under suspicion. Let's meet at White Spot.
They're like, oh, we want to talk to you. This is, so you'll see.
Okay. Wait, does this still happen?
Probably. He met with Detective Tarr and Constable Fred Maley?
I don't think I don't think those kind of meetings happen in like a fucking chain restaurant these days. I think they happen
Probably
like
not.
at police stations where they should happen.
Not always, though. I don't know.
Really?
Undercover cops?
But were they undercover?
No. Here's the thing. This is what happened.
Okay.
So Constable Fred Maley, he's there too. He says, quite a few homicides around here, right? And we understand you might be able to help us. We're prepared to compensate you for whatever you're able to tell us or help us.
$10 an hour for window washing.
But we have to know if you're able to help us. And Olson sat there for a minute. He's just looking at them, silent, because he's a fucking creep. And then he was like, I want a salary of $3,000 a month. In exchange, he claimed he would provide information about the disappearances.
Okay.
And so they talked for a few minutes, and it was clear to them that Olson was excited at the idea that the RCMP were asking him for information.
Mm-hmm.
Even bragging about testifying in a criminal case before. He was like, yeah, I've done that.
Okay.
I've been that guy. I've testified in a criminal case.
Oh
I've given
God.
information before.
Sure, buddy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I remember when he was younger, inmates would considered him a snitch.
Oh,
so he
that's
loved to
true.
fucking talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the end, he told police he would get back to them if he found anything out. He's like, yeah, I'll tell you if I hear what happened to those kids.
Okay.
And the police had to watch him walk out of the restaurant because they didn't have probable cause to arrest him.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't have evidence.
Totally. Crazy.
So,
Okay.
we're back to meeting Louise Chartrand. She was hitchhiking to her waitressing job and went into a store in Mission. So she already hitchhiked part way.
Mm-hmm.
I wish she hitchhiked the whole way with someone else.
Yeah.
She was going to walk the 10 minutes to her job from the store she was at when Olson was like, hey, I'm going there too. Get in my car. And he drugged her and drove to Whistler.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Apparently on the way, he even stopped with her in the car at the Squamish RCMP detachment to pick up a confiscated gun, which he wasn't able to retrieve.
What?
Yeah. So she's unconscious in the backseat of his car. And he's like, the Squamish RCMP, they still have that gun of mine that they said I could get back.
Oh my
Like they were holding,
God.
I don't know the whole story behind that.
God.
But they were like, no, we're not giving you this. Like, we can't do it at this time of night.
Yeah.
Like the person who processes that isn't here.
Holy shit. And also he's under suspicion. Why would he be giving back his gun?
I don't know if Squamish was in
on it.
I don't know.
Fucking
So
holy
then
shit.
he just continued to drive, and he drove north of Whistler to a gravel pit where he murdered Louise with a hammer and buried her in a shallow grave.
Oh.
And so Louise's coworkers actually checked with her family when she didn't arrive for her 8 p.m. shift. And one of her sisters called the police the next morning.
Yeah.
And Louise was found on August 26th. And actually, this is really beautiful. Around 200 people attended her funeral in Maple Ridge.
Aw.
In the late summer of 1981 when she was
lovely.
laid to rest.
That's so lovely.
Yeah. And those are all of the victims and their stories of how they met this horrible man.
Okay.
Clifford Olson.
Damn.
Yeah.
I hope that they find peace.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
So now we're on to the hunt for Clifford Olson.
Okay.
Oh, also, we're already an hour in, so maybe we should cut it. I don't know. What do you think?
How many pages you got left?
This is page 11 out of 17.
Yeah, maybe we should have a 2-parter. Okay.
I don't know. Okay.
Well,
this part's really short, so maybe I could just add it in anyway. I don't know how long it'll take to get through it.
like the rest of the pages?
Yeah. Hi, ghoulies. Sara here. I'm just editing this episode, and I realize we're already past the hour mark. So, because this episode is so dense, so difficult to listen to, I have decided to put it into a 2-parter. Originally, it was going to be 2 parts, then we thought it would be 1, and then now deciding again to put it back into a 2-parter. So, you will have to catch the manhunt of Clifford Olson next time. Thank you all so much for listening, and have a great week. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, reviews, critiques, of course, let us know. Send us a DM at Ghoul Society Pod on Instagram. Send us an email at ghoulsocietypod@gmail.com. Of course, leave a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you're listening. We thank you so much for your support, and we appreciate you listening to this. Go take some time for yourself. Go take a break from this intense true crime episode. Maybe go listen to one of our previous episodes that are a little bit more lighthearted. And I thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye!